Welcome, folks. This is Acid Roots. We're going to talk about Mudvayne's debut album, LD50. Now, with this, we have another project in the world of new metal and metal in general. But the whole thing about it is this is definitely different from some of the other ones. Like, this is messier. I'd say if you've listened to Slipknot, this is even messier than that, and this translated to a rougher listen. I did attempt to review it earlier in the year, but I finally concentrated, sat down, and listened to the project, and this is what I found. So, something about them, they are from Illinois. They released an EP prior to this album, and they toured. They had a Tattoo the Earth tour that they went on, and this came out in the late summer of the year 2000. So by this point, the genre that they were in, I feel like Slipknot was something, and it's actually executive produced by a member of Slipknot. So it's something, if you're looking for a reason or something to find as to how to affiliate with them, this is one of them. But I will say that they stand on their own rather well. It's not difficult to see. They do have some fun singles that I was really, I can see myself getting obsessed with. And I think really the biggest thing about it is it's kind of like when you open up to a genre and you start to learn some of these guys. I mean, you really have to know the rock charts to be able to appreciate some of this music. Like, I feel like first and second and third time listeners are not going to just be able to find these songs as quickly. I mean, it would really have to become a big job of yours to be able to know everything that was on the rock music charts, at least here in America. So I think it ranges from position number 1 to about 40, and that it updates every single week, so you've got new songs pouring in. But they did manage to chart back in the year 2000. I do think this might have been at least an underground success and moderate, notable success. But as far as like the number 1, number 2, number 3 single, it was not on it. But there's still lots of great music. So as far as that's concerned, what I've thought was, Mudvayne is pretty, they're sick, they're cold, they're pretty cold. So the production on here, the reason why this took me as long is because the verses kind of bleed into the choruses, and it's hard to distinguish. Sometimes they will not repeat the chorus. They will just go into something else, and it felt different to me rather than the standard position of music. And that was very frustrating because the way that I review music, I get used to the instruments first before listening to the lyrics, and so that it really kind of clashed with me. It was a frustrating listen, but luckily I did manage to like some of these songs, but it was almost to the point. I'm just letting you know, so if it feels like you cannot distinguish where the verses and the hooks and the rest of the stuff go, I mean, that's something you're gonna it's just really messy. That's the best way to put it, is it's extremely messy. But the singles are not. But even so, I mean, Dig is a bunch of yelling, Death Blooms, these are records. These sound like if Slipknot or if Limp Bizkit were to get to like a third or fourth single and they were kind of more in a I don't give a fuck attitude, that is the kind of single that they are starting with. And it's something to know. It has like the rough stuff. It starts off right in the beginning, and that's the difference. There's not really any interlude to this. It's right first thing you're gonna know is you're gonna hear like head banging. I'm gonna get gnarled up. That's one thing, but the songs that are not singles get messier than that, and that's the only thing you have to worry about. But I'm gonna say the unheard songs. So out of 12 songs, there were five. There's 17 songs on here, but 5 of them are kind of skits. So out of 12, I liked 8. So I was really surprised by that. In the beginning, I only liked 3, but I managed to pick that up. So Mudvayne tries a bunch of different topics, or they try a bunch of different approaches, and so the song, there's guitar on here, there's good instruments, but the thing is there's also a bit of alternative metal that leaks in, and you see that in their further records. So there's not a clone of Dig. Death Blooms was, I liked that one, but it needed, like, the third single. You may not like it, look it up to figure it out, but it, the energy kind of switches up, and it was strange trying to figure out what would have been the proper song. Now, really, if you want to crank up the energy more, Internal Primates Forever is probably the next song that I would say is raring to go. And then I would also say Severed is a good one as well. It's just long, 6 minutes. So, but it's not complaint long. This is simply a longer song. But okay, here are the 8 songs that you need to hear: Dig, Internal Primates Forever, -1, Death Blooms, Severed, Prod. I'm not sure what that song number 13, Prod, Under My Skin, No Forever, song number 16. Now, a lot of the longer songs are the ones that have the most gnarled up music. Severed, Prod, No Forever. These are ones that are just like Dig and Death Blooms, where the manic energy is kind of taking place. But this is something to note. I liked -1 because that one was alternative metal, but it wasn't in a boring approach. It wasn't more of like, I'm trying to get through it as much as it was just a curious song. There's something about it that was curious, that was very inviting. It's something to note. The middle of this project, kind of, the energy, some of it wears off. You may notice that a few of these records are not, as good, but then it just depends, really. I think if you like Mudvayne, you don't have to even consider what I'm saying. I think really it should translate rather well, but I will say that Dig, Death Bloom, Severed, the songs that are already highlighted as the most popular are virtually what to go with here. But I am going to point out more to you so you can find some extra shit. But alright, so that's it. I'm going to give this album, because I liked 8 out of 12, I'm going to give it an 8. It's going to get an 8. 4 songs would have been good. If it would have been a 9, it would have gotten a 9. So, 8 out of 10. The Future, Mudvayne has not dropped an album since 2009. And the whole thing about it is, we may not ever see another album, but, for what it was, this was definitely a highlight. This was new metal that covered an approach in the form of music that was not seen. Linkin Park is a little bit more emotional. Limp Bizkit is a little bit more rowdy. Korn is a little bit more eerie. And I'm trying to think of some other cats. Like Godsmack is a little bit more, that one's kind of tough. I'd say that they're probably just more raw, but these guys are just gritty. They're gnarled up. This is where you're gonna find the messiest of metal that I think. There may be worse than this. I mean, not worse, but there may be more raw than this, and that's something that, if that happens, just know what you're getting. But, this is definitely a worthwhile trip. It's a pleasant surprise. So, the social score, I'm going to give it a 7.5 social because the 2 singles are fun. There's more on here to find, and there might even be some alternative metal for you guys. But alright, I give this album an 8, a 7.5 social. Subscribe for more fun, and stay tuned.